All right. So the goal of what we wanted to do today was just talk to you about scams and frauds and home protection. The goal of that is that you protect your money, but really that you be able to feel empowered and know how to protect your peace of mind, because that's important as well. Now, you do work hard for your money. You may be retired, you may be still working, but you want your money to stay your money and not turn into somebody else's money. And so the things that we're going to talk about in the seminar should likely help you keep it safe. Practical steps that anybody can use to take care of um, their money, their resources, and their well-being. Before I go any further, I wanted to introduce four of our detectives. Mr. Ken Kim over here is in our cyber crimes unit. Detective Kyle Murchison works in the property crimes unit and deals specifically with Thunder Valley Casino. Detective Cunningham works in the Auburn area doing property crimes, and Detective Schneider works out of the Loomis office, specifically in the Roseville and Lincoln areas. But all these guys have years of experience as law enforcement officers. I just want to introduce them to you. So when we talk about scams and frauds and theft, anybody can be targeted. Even financial professionals and law enforcement officers have fallen victim to scams and frauds. Nobody is immune to it, and it can happen to anybody. What our respective units do is we have the property crimes unit and then the cyber crimes unit. So things that the property crimes unit does are scams, theft by false pretense, fraud, burglary, grand theft, and identity theft. And we'll talk about some of those things in specific in a few moments. The scope of the cybercrimes unit has some specified training, specified equipment that they work with. They do things like hacking, business email compromise. We'll talk about that later as well, and also cryptocurrency fraud. So our two units work to combat those different theft, fraud, and scam issues in our communities. So what are some of the crimes that we investigate specifically? Things like check fraud or bank fraud. Access card, which is just a catch-all for debit cards and credit cards, or credit fraud itself. Identity theft, and when you see that PII, that's personally identifying information. That's things like your name, your address, your debit card number, your PIN number, your social security number, anything that identifies you as you, that's PII. And people use that sometimes to get credit on your behalf. We do elder fraud, burglary, break-ins, theft by false pretenses, which is just the official term for what scams and frauds are. Things like embezzlement, where maybe somebody has a business, an employee may have taken and kept something that belongs to the business. And then forgery. So scams or theft by false pretense.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for coming. Ken Kim, detective, work in cyber crimes, used to work property crimes. Basically scams, right? So we all know it's a scam. You've probably experienced either a text message, phone call, email, right? Like I get the one from the IRS. I owe them money. And, you know, if I don't pay them up, they're going to come and arrest me. So even I get those messages like every day now. So but basically how scams are conducted, it's more like a psychological factor, right? They try to build trust with you or use some type of authority, right? Like, hey, we're the IRS, we're Amazon, we're the Federal Trade Commission, right? Or then on the other flip side of the house is they use some type of scare tactic to convince you to hand over some money. So the reason why we do these seminars is because obviously Placer County has an aging population, and Placer County is better off than most counties, right? So you guys spent your whole career earning money, getting retirement, enjoying your life, and then these scammers want to go ahead and rip you off of your hard-earned dollars. So obviously, I'm getting older. You guys are elderly. My memory's not so good. I don't move as fast, so I get disorientated very quickly. I get these phone calls. It's overwhelming, right? So you know, as you get older, you don't process things as well. So they also take advantage of that. So and then trust, whatever it says, if something doesn't smell, what is it? I don't know what that says, but basically trust your instinct. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. That's how scammers, are able to scam people, is because they just override that your natural instinct, a danger, and a red flag or anything like that. So, right. Well, that's how we make mistakes, right? We know something's going on, but we just let it, for whatever reason, right? We justify it and just let it go. So, if you feel something's off, that's what the sheriff's office is here for. Is there's always someone you can call and verify, like, hey, am I being scammed? And it's just a quick phone call. You're not bothering us. We get tons of these phone calls every day. We'd rather have you call and not get ripped off than not call and then get ripped off, right? So we have the kind of mentality is like trust but verify, zero trust until you actually confirm with somebody that whatever they're telling you is legitimate. Common scams. Can you hear me? Yep. So common scams, right? I don't know if you guys had that, but I've been to victims' houses where, hey, I received a phone call. My grandchild was in jail, and I needed to send them money right away to bail them out of jail. So, right, they don't know. There's a lot of your information's already out on the internet. They can quickly find that information, and also when they call you, they try to get that information from you. You might inadvertently, give that information to them over the phone without knowing it. So, common scam. Talked about the IRS scam, government scam. They compose as DMV, Federal Trade Commission, IRS. So they're using that position of authority to kind of scare you into paying them. Like I tell people, when you get a phone call from the IRS and they demand money, I've been to people's houses where I told them it was a scam. They still don't believe me. It's the IRS. They're just going to take it from you and not ask. So they're not going to ask you to pay them in gift cards or gold bars or whatever it is. It's the IRS. They'll just garnish your wages and send you a letter and then take your money anyway. So once again, if you have an issue, you can give us a call and we'll send a deputy out just so you can, feel more secure about what's going on, right? So tech support scam. So what they have is called malvertising. So I'm assuming most of you guys use Google, some form of the internet. I'm going to look up, let's say I'm going to look up the Goodwill or something, right? So I Google Goodwill. It's called malvertising. Within seconds, a scam ad will show up, and it'll usually be the first or second one. You'll click that, and then your computer will start making funny noises and beep at you, and then say your computer's been seized by the state of California. Call this number and pay us $50 and we'll unlock it for you. So that's a scam. You can give us a call, or you can take your, if you know someone's tech savvy, they can fix it for you, or you can take it to Best Buy or Geek Squad or something. It's super easy to clear. I've had senior citizens just come over to the office and we just fix that for them. So whatever you do, don't pay the money. That's all you got to do. And then romance scams, right? So a lot of people don't like being alone. Totally understand. They develop online romances. And then those romances, you're going to sail off to the sunset or go to the Bahamas. Eventually, they're going to, once they feel like they've garnered a really good relationship, then they're going to ask you for money in form of either, hey, I got a family member that does investments, or, hey, let's start a business together. So just be wary of what you're doing with your money. And then the good old lottery scam. I don't know if you've probably heard the Prince of Nigeria. I used to get those back in the day. The Prince of Nigeria left me $1 million, and then if you got to pay the taxes, and once you pay the taxes, we'll send you the $1 million. So I've had doctors, lawyers come to me with emails saying, "Is this legitimate?" It's like, no, it's not. So. I don't know if you guys pay attention to the news. This has kind of been happening frequently in Placer County. It's nationwide. It's ran by organized crime. Basically, we call it oil in the engine scam. Is where if anybody sold any cars recently on Facebook Marketplace or anything like Craigslist, the buyer will show up, take a look at your car. They're usually working 2 or 3 people. While they're observing the car, they'll distract the seller, and then they'll pour oil into the engine or the tailpipe, so the car starts smoking during a test drive. And then they will negotiate a lower price, and then you get ripped off, and then they drive away with a perfectly good car, and then they resell it again for a higher price. And that also goes back to odometer fraud. So they'll roll back the odometer, sell it to somebody else, and then they'll go register at the DMV, and they'll be like, oh, the odometer's been rolled back. So it's fraud on multiple levels. So our county does pretty well in prosecuting these cases. Outside the county, some agencies won't take this case. So just be wary if you have friends selling cars or anything online. Just tell them to meet like at a safe place, like a police department, sheriff's department, DMV or something, so they can protect themselves. So
something else to think about too is like bring along a family member or trusted friend with you. Don't do it.
Preferably a mechanic. So that'd be great. They'll try. So basically, when the scam happens, they'll try to pressure that person into selling the car for vastly. I mean, I've seen, fairly good cars like Toyota Tacomas, like that one in that picture. It was selling for $12,000 used online, which is fairly good for a Toyota. They got the person to sell it to them for like $2,000. So just be wary, especially also if you're buying stuff off Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, scams going as well, right? Like in our county, it happens a little bit more is like farming equipment, because we're kind of agriculture. People want to buy a backhoe, they see it online, and it's very cheap, and they'll send the money, and they'll never get that backhoe or farming equipment. So that's another form of a scam, advertising, right? Facebook doesn't really vet the marketplace stuff very well. They only care about getting the ad money. So
if you are selling one of these vehicles online and it's never had any sort of mechanical issue like that before, and all of a sudden the very first time you ever notice some new mechanical issue is when you're trying to sell it to somebody, that should be a giant red flag as well.
All right, and then the red flag, right? The biggest thing is they're going to use whatever tactic or pressure to get you to give you the money in whatever form it is. So gift cards, if you're running around town, trying to pay these people in gift cards, probably wrong answer. I don't have the time or energy for that, so I hope you guys don't either. If they ask you to pull out money in cash and put it in a box and mail it, probably another wrong answer. Gold bars, another wrong answer. How many people do cryptocurrency? Okay, I got one gentleman here. Anybody else? Another in the back right. So cryptocurrency is not common in the elderly population. So if they're coaching you on how to do cryptocurrency, they'll sit with you on the phone for hours. You're probably, going down the wrong path of, giving up your money. So the biggest takeaway is, even when I've done these before, is ladies, people have called me. The biggest thing is if they're asking for money, you might start falling for the scam, but when they start asking for money, that's like okay, we need to stop now and call somebody. And just that, right? They'll try to get you to not tell anybody, because if you tell somebody like, hey Ken, I need you to go around town and get me $30,000 worth of gift cards. Imagine if I told my friend, one of these guys, that. They would probably laugh in my face, right? So that's why they try to do secret stuff. One of the scams I was working is I called a gentleman. I thought he was a victim of a scam from the information we received on the case we're working. and he already sent money, and then he told me that he sent the money to the Federal Trade Commission and that he was going to hang up on me because they told him not to tell anybody. And so he lived in another county, so I had the next county over go and contact him. So they'll manipulate you, right? As soon as the word is out to your family members, your friends, that's when they don't get any more money. So legitimate contacts, just be wary of that, right? So if you get a phone call, not kind of like funny story. My wife received a call from Amex fraud. The number showed up as Amex fraud. It called multiple times. Finally, she picked up, and they were on the phone with her for many of hours. And I tried to get a hold of her. It was something I needed to talk to her for something, and what are you doing? And she was like, I'm talking to Amex fraud. I'm like, no, you're not. And so as soon as she put us on a three-way call, they hung up because they realized that their scam was up. So just make sure that if you receive a phone call, and I do it myself all the time, if you receive a phone call from your bank, they might tell you, hey, you've been a victim of fraud. I immediately say, thank you, hang up. I independently look for that number. If you Google it, don't click on the first number, maybe look a little bit down, or look at the number that's on the back of the card and call that number back to verify. Also, another way to verify stuff is if you think it's a scam, you can always give us a call. Call a friend, call a family member, but you need to, like the zero trust mentality, is verify yourself and make sure you're talking to the right people. Other than that, scammers, right? They're going to kind of do high pressure tactics. Anybody been to timeshare sales, right? That's what it's going to kind of feel like, right? So if you're feeling like that and it's high pressure and you get the money out, there's a sense of urgency. You might lose out on something, right? Oh, you're a victim of fraud. You need to, for us to fix it, you got to pull the money out. Like, just think about it a little bit too. Also, the banking professionals at the banks, they're highly trained. They see this every day. If they're telling you it's a scam, it's probably, they see more than we do. So if, your local banking professionals will also let you know that if you're pulling out money or doing something like that, that it's a scam. So especially in Placer County, a lot of the local tellers and stuff, they're very good. So, and just to reiterate, like, just slow down. There's no sense of urgency. It's your money. It's not like anybody's dying, or they might call you and say, your grandson and grandniece is in jail and they need to bail out. Well, they can wait in jail for a little bit until you figure it out. So, but just remember, they're going to try to come at you very fast and furious and high pressure and get you to act immediately. So just all you need to do is just take a step back. And the easiest thing is just hang up the phone, or don't respond to that email, or don't click on that email, right? So.
And if you do fall victim to a scam, contact your local law enforcement agency. I mean, we're the sheriff's office, and we do the unincorporated portions of the county and then the towns of Loomis and Colfax. But if you live in Roseville, Rockland, Lincoln, Auburn, contact that local jurisdiction. If any of you are from Sacramento County, contact your local law enforcement agency if you're a victim of a scam. If in some of the instances that Detective Kim was talking about, if you're still on the phone with the suspect, or the suspect is still continuing to contact you, let dispatch know that. We've had some really good successes with some of these things. We've been able to jump in and kind of intercept some of those conversations, and have had some really good successes, which we'll talk about at the end of the presentation. Identity theft.
No, click it.
Good afternoon. I'm Kyle Murchison. I'm a detective in our property unit. I primarily work the Thunder Valley Casino area, which is something I've worked on patrol as well in that region for most of my time, which has been about 12 years with the sheriff's office. Identity theft is a very heavy crime associated with the casino and also just associated overall with what we're seeing reported. Identity theft is the use of a person's PII or that personal information that we were talking about for illegal purposes like theft or fraud. A lot of these things tie together. So a lot of the scams that Ken was talking about, these scams are harvesting your information for use for identity theft related crimes. So again, identity theft is the use of a person's PII for unlawful purposes. And we're talking about PII that can be pretty much any of your information, including your name, your driver's license numbers, dates of birth, associated account numbers, things like that, things that are connected to you, your personal information that they're going to utilize to impersonate you and defraud you of your hard-earned money. Some of the methods here that our criminals are using to gain your information. The common things that we see are things like dumpster diving for these sensitive documents. Mail theft is a huge one. I recently launched an investigation for a gentleman we detained that was in possession of about 150 people's different pieces of mail that had been stolen from mailbox burglaries during tax season. So they were targeting the boxes during that time period, primarily because everyone was getting their W-2 tax returns, and that was containing things like social security numbers, direct deposit information, names, dates of birth, everything somebody would need to impersonate you, to open bank accounts in your names, to apply for credit cards and things of that nature. And again, like I was saying before, these things are tied together, these scams and these frauds. So a lot of the time people are using these online hacks or data breaches where they're gaining access to your computers to harvest your information. These are just some examples of things that we see when we are detaining subjects involved in identity theft. The pictures here are Visa gift cards, which they can use to load money on from thefts that they've done, such as like credit card fraud or bank fraud or things of that nature. And these people that we're contacting that are involved in this, it's not one or two victims that they have. They have, tens to hundreds of victims at one time. They have credit cards in multiple people's names that they're using regularly and defrauding people out of their hard-earned dollars. This is an example of an identity theft booklet, which is pretty common when we see this organized identity theft. The booklet that this gentleman had has the things that we talked about, harvested information, probably from mail with how much info is in there, including the names, the home addresses, addresses, things like that. And they're using this information a lot of times alongside scripts that they have written in these books on how to call your bank, which they find from your mail because you'll get your Wells Fargo updates, your account updates alongside your tax documents and things like that. They'll reach out to your bank and they'll provide your information and tell them things like, I am locked out of my account because I put my password in. Can I give you my social security number and get access to that account? And then they'll take over your account and start draining funds or start opening credit cards and things of that nature. So the mail thing is huge. We see more photos of the tax returns here from these mail thefts. It is extremely important to make sure that you guys are checking your mail regularly so that we're not leaving those documents vulnerable for long periods of time. If you have a home mailbox and you're missing things, report that to us. Even if we're not able to determine who took the mail at the time, it'll help us be more attentive to that area, knowing that you are being targeted, that your mail is being taken. And if you guys experience a theft or say you're using cluster mailboxes like in housing communities or apartment complexes, and those mailboxes get damaged and mail is stolen, report that to us again, and then be attentive to your bank accounts, your credit history and things like that, because that'll be a huge indicator that your information is being used. and then you can take steps as quickly as possible to lock that up and limit access. Some other things you can do to protect yourself is shred your sensitive documents. Make sure that when you guys are disposing of things, that it's not intact, so they can't just dumpster dive and pull your tax documents or your bank documents out of the mail or out of the dumpsters and make use of that. Make it difficult for them. Be cautious about who you're giving your information out to. Like Ken was saying, take things slow. If you're speaking with somebody on the phone that is representing themselves as an official from the bank or somebody involved in your finances, take a step back. Take a moment to validate that. If I'm getting a phone call from the bank, I'm never going to provide my information directly during that phone call. I will go into my applications on my phone and find their fraud number myself. I'll look it up either in a phone book or from my documents that I have previously, but I will find a valid number myself to authenticate that call that I'm getting and to make sure that that fraud is real. So I'm not providing my account information to somebody who's going to use it for illegal purposes. Don't reveal your birthday, your address, vehicle license plates, or anything like that on social media. People get really comfortable posting their life stories online, and that is totally fine. Just be cautious about what you put out there, because a lot of times I can go on somebody's account and I can look through the hundreds of images that they've posted over the course of years, and I can figure out where you live, how old you are, from your friends telling you happy birthday, and happy 52nd birthday on August 3rd. Now I know your date of birth and your year of birth, and I can make use of that, vehicle license plates, things like that. So just be aware that all of that information is something that somebody who is intelligent enough and determined enough can start putting that info together and develop a portfolio of your information and your lifestyle. Use different passwords. This one's huge. I preach this when we're up here, but I also get lazy on this because I don't want to forget things. So a big thing is make sure that the different platforms that you use have different passwords. It's easy to get lazy and to use the same one over and over again. But if you're using the same password across multiple different platforms and your password gets compromised on one platform, now they have access to all those other ones as well, and everything becomes vulnerable. So change your passwords routinely. Keep them different. Make sure that if you're recording them somewhere, like on a device or in a ledger or something like that, that whatever that is that you're using to document that is secure. If it's a physical document, make sure it's locked in a safe that nobody else has access to. And if it's through electronic means, make sure it's probably something that's intended for that and that it's from a secure source. If you fall victim to identity theft, make sure that you maintain all the information, collect all the info that you have about the theft that has occurred. If you're speaking with your bank about that, get an understanding of what's been taken, when it was taken, things like that. If you're communicating with somebody that you believe has stolen your identity or harvested your information, that is all phenomenal evidence to us. Things like phone numbers, the methods, the drop-off locations for things that are being requested. Those are all tools that we as investigators can use and connect to previous cases and research and use to find the person who has committed these crimes. Again, do change your passwords. If you fall victim, that is not an evidence thing, so I would immediately change your passwords, either through electronic means like on your applications or communicating with your bank to make sure that you are renewing that security and locking that person out of access. Maintaining credit monitoring, again, we spoke about that. There's a lot of different tools out there. I'm not going to recommend one over another. I use a couple. I have credit monitoring through my bank. A lot of the tax services that you guys use, like TurboTax, they'll offer credit monitoring on the side as part of their package. I think the important takeaway here is that you're just using tools to pay attention to your finances and not just looking at them once every 3 to 6 months and then realizing that this theft has occurred after time has passed, and that makes it more difficult for us to figure out what happened. Sure.
So I think there's only 2 people that raised their hand for cryptocurrency. Everybody else is you're good. You don't know what it is, and someone's going to tell you to use it, and they're going to teach you how to do it. And it's a very long process, so you're good. Don't do it. Just really easy to break down cryptocurrency. Basically, it's a lot of math. It's like you have your normal bank account, right? You have physical dollars, like you have a dollar with the serial number on it. And then you have numbers in your bank account that's supposedly real, that you have money. Same thing with like a cryptocurrency, right? It's just a bunch of numbers that says that there's value. It's a digital form of currency. How you buy cryptocurrency is there's several methods, right? You can go to one of these platforms like Robinhood, Coinbase, transfer money from your real bank to these platforms, and then change it into cryptocurrency. So all it is digital currency. I like to deal with cash, the physical stuff with the paper. Feels good in my hand. I don't have a lot of it. But basically, all this is a digital version of money, just like the numbers you see in your bank account. And then through math online, that's how they verify that, cryptocurrency is real. The good thing about cryptocurrency is through the math and through the availability to see it online is how it's like kind of real. The downsides of cryptocurrency is it's not a regulated industry, right? So your bank, you probably heard of your deposits are FDIC insured. If you are a victim of credit card fraud or something like that, your bank will reimburse you. With cryptocurrency, since it's unregulated, there's very little protections to get your money back once it's gone. Why people use cryptocurrency is you can remain anonymous by transferring money. So there's value to it, but also there's a lot of downside. Most of you guys don't use it, so that's good. So if someone calls you and says, I need you to turn this money into cryptocurrency, it's probably a red flag. And then they're going to have to spend hours on the phone with you to tell you how to do it. So just when you hear that, just know that's a red flag. And you can give someone a call or don't do it or hang up. So there's different ways to manage cryptocurrency, like through an app. I do mine through the app, but there's also, you can put it on like a little thumb drive type device called a ledger, whatever. In the news, Cold Card, it's like the actual physical device where you store your cryptocurrency. They just got hacked, and I think their losses are at like $89 million or something like that. So just be careful. Cryptocurrency, it's unregulated. So I think the last report I saw is they said about 80% of cryptocurrency uses right now is illegitimate. So just be wary. And the 2 gentlemen that use it, they probably know what they're doing. They've probably been doing it for a while. I won't go into like the very technical stuff, but basically the equivalent on how they manage, wallets, digital wallets. It's kind of like your normal wallet, but there they have wallet, and then you have to have like passwords and keys and stuff like that. It gets very complicated, and I don't want to bore you guys. So, yeah. So most of it doesn't pertain to you, but if you ever do get into cryptocurrency, or they tell you to go online and do whatever, they're going to ask for pass keys, access to your cryptocurrency. Just once you hear that stuff, just hang up on them, or call our office, and we'll deal with it. Any questions? All right.
Sure, if you wouldn't mind. Hi there, I'm Dan Cunningham. I'm a detective with our property crimes unit. So I'm going to cover burglary, thefts, things of that nature. So one thing that we've been seeing a lot over the last few years, as far as these organized burglaries go, is we get a lot of these South American theft groups. So they're South American nationals working together. They're extremely, extremely well organized. They do a lot of reconnaissance. They're targeting very high-end neighborhoods. They're looking for houses in neighborhoods where they can get the most bang for their buck. So we've been seeing a lot of this, like in the Granite Bay area, but also some other adjacent areas, Rockland, Loomis, areas that are much more affluent. They like to go after. So we've got a clip here from the news. There's a local story over an incident that we dealt with. Turn the sound on manually.
So I've seen the video. I've seen the video multiple times, so I can just kind of narrate it. Apologize for the lack of audio. Anyhow, so they're talking about a Granite Bay burglary that occurred in November of 2024. Folks here from the sheriff's office are making entry on that burglary as they residents there noticed that somebody had been inside. This is a rare burglary in Granite Bay where somebody's actually inside when it occurred. Most of the times when one of these occurs, people are gone because of the reconnaissance that Detective Cunningham was talking about that they do ahead of time. This is in the Wexford neighborhood in Granite Bay. It's adjacent to Sacramento County, and like many of the South American theft group burglaries, this backs up to a green belt. The lady is describing what happened during her burglary is that while she was there, she thought maybe a pipe had burst or something had fallen off the wall. And in reality, what had happened is that the suspects, not knowing that anybody was home, had made entry through her rear glass bathroom window and come into the house. The folks that do this are very well organized. This is that bathroom window that I spoke about, but they use a glass cutter and then push through that to make entry into the house and then take handbags and jewelry and some other valuables. But something that's important to know is that this is another set of these folks that got arrested in late 2023. These two gentlemen got arrested after doing one of these Granite Bay burglaries down in Elk Grove. I was going to say what's important to know is that as we seek to combat these burglaries, there are things that we can do and things that y'all can do, which we'll talk about. But some of the things that they do is that they target high value neighborhoods like Detective Cunningham was talking about, things like Granite Bay, West Roseville, more affluent parts of the county. They do extensive pre-operational surveillance. We've seen them put cameras. They'll drive around ahead of time. They'll sneak around in the backyard days ahead, and they'll just kind of establish patterns of life. What they want to do is they want to see what you're doing and then wait until you leave and then come in and break into the house. They often do choose houses that back up to Greenbelt. So if you're living in an area where your backyard is a large piece of property or Greenbelt, be aware of that. They do them almost exclusively under cover of night because obviously, things like that. Crime loves the darkness, and they want to be able to get in and out of the house undetected, and oftentimes they do. Suspects immediately will ransack the master bedroom and the master closet because that's generally where people will put the most of their valuables. They're usually looking for jewelry, cash, sometimes handbags. They don't take electronics. They're not going to take your iPhone, your iPad. They're not going to take your computer, and they're not going to take your firearms. We've actually seen them do things like move firearms out of the way to get to the jewelry. At one instance, they took the firearms and threw the pool. And you might think, well, why would they do that? It's actually to separate homeowners from their firearms so that they don't get interrupted and then the homeowner uses the firearm on the suspects. But this is surveillance footage from a South American theft group burglary. There, you can see they broke the tempered glass there to the residence. They'll then go in and be in and out usually in 5 to 8 minutes. And this is the haul that some of them have come away with. This is an evidence photo off of a suspect's phone. Just the amount of, you can see jewelry there. You can see just a large amount of cash. These things are very, very lucrative. And in some cases, they've even taken gold bars and made gold bars out of things that they're getting. So all that jewelry that gets stolen, it usually gets fenced off and down in Los Angeles, sometimes out of the country. I wanted to show you this video. There's no needed sound for this video, but I'm going to let it play through. This video is the surveillance that some of these people do ahead of some of these burglaries. This is a surveillance crew that we were given information on from another law enforcement agency. And you see that guy kind of walking north, or actually that would be south, but walking towards the top of the camera there. That's a surveillance criminal. He's basically walking through the neighborhood, just looking around to see what house he can and his crew can break into. Up above is one of our law enforcement drones as we're surveilling this guy. So this guy is just walking around in a neighborhood in Roseville. You can see it's a day, much like today, nice, warm, and sunny outside. Nobody looks twice at somebody just taking a walk in a nice neighborhood at a nice time of day. It's not the middle of the night. He's not looking around. He's just very confidently walking through the neighborhood like he's just out there getting his steps. He's walking across to this other house there. The video kind of moves for the pertinent info, but he went under that tree there and basically kind of half hopped the fence to look and see who was in that house or what that house looked like. You can see there's another car. There's that black car that was over there, and this is him returning to one of their cars. It's that car right there. It's silver or white. You're going to see him. What's going to be odd is that he's not going to get in the front. He's not going to get in the passenger side or the passenger front. He's going to get in the back. There's two other people in that car who are also actively surveilling the neighborhood. And from what we've seen before, they're using two-way radios and just, they're very similar to what we would do if we were doing surveillance on a place we were going to do a search warrant on later. They're doing these things to determine whose house they want to target. So some of those basics, lock your doors. I lock my door when I'm home, even during the day. Use a deadbolt and keep the doors locked even when you're home during the day. If somebody comes to your house, maybe unannounced, and they're like, "Oh, hey, it's PG&E, or it's AT&T, or it's SMUD, or it's Roseville Electric, or whatever," ask them for ID. None of them should have an issue, just like none of us have an issue with showing somebody ID. Of course, we'd want to show somebody ID to verify who we were. But make sure it's actually the same picture is on there, and make sure it's actually an issued ID by any of those companies. And even still, if they are like very pushy about getting into your house, most utility places don't need to get into your house. Tell them to wait outside, either call the sheriff's office or your local police department, and then you can call PG&E, Roseville Electric, SMUD, any of those companies, and just say, "Hey, did you send somebody out here to my house? I live at 123 Main Street, and I have somebody who's really, really wanting to come inside." Those should be red flags. You should, like Ken was talking about, pause and make sure that you know what's going on before you allow them to kind of talk their way into something that they shouldn't be doing. It kind of dovetails with what Kyle's talking about as far as social media security. Don't announce your travel on social media. If you tell your friend or tell a neighbor, but don't put it up on Facebook or Instagram, X, or anything like that, that, "Hey, you're going to Florida tomorrow." Some of those things are public. We do investigations on criminals, and we use social media constantly to find out things about them. And the ones that are easy to find are the ones that are public. Similarly, if criminals are going to look at you guys to see, "Well, hey, I think that house over there, oh, you know what? They just put on their social media that as of Tuesday, they're going to Oregon for a week." That's going to let them know that your house is going to be empty. And as long as they can avoid the dog sitter or somebody who's back there watering your plants, then they may have free reign in your house at some point. Also consider things like security cameras, security systems, and doorbell cameras. Those are going to help you see who's there. You can see who's there from your phone. You can respond to them, and you don't have to necessarily open the door to verify who's out in front of your house. Yes, ma'am. So I wouldn't say I don't have a statistic to say like how frequently the alarm goes off or doesn't go off. These groups do have some very sophisticated tools that can even overwhelm and overcome things like security systems and security cameras. As far as it goes with security systems and security cameras, I know that it's become kind of like easy to use things like Simply Safe and some of the other kind of like discount brands as far as setting up your home security, the best solution is almost always a wired security system or a wired camera system. Like it is easy just to put up something that just connects to your Wi-Fi because you don't have to drill holes and use, caulking to plug those holes, then run wires, and it is a tenth of the time to do the wired stuff. But we have found that the ones that are wired, those will almost always work, whereas the ones that are wireless will very frequently either not work or not work properly. They may have gaps in the video. And so just talk to like a reputable security company about what's the best way to do that. And they can tell you the difference in the benefits. One may have a cost benefit, but one may have a more secure benefit. But talk to a reputable security company about doing that to harden up your house. Does that answer your question? Okay. Okay. Yeah, perfect.
And just because one deterrent might not be as effective with a specific group, too, doesn't mean that your security systems aren't preventing other types of crime. These groups that we're talking about here, they're very organized, they're very sophisticated. Because of that, they're less deterred by these security devices and these systems that people are putting in place, because they're pre-planning and they're surveilling, and they're very well trained because they practice what they do to be quick and efficient and circumvent these systems. But at the same time, you have different tiers of predators that are looking to victimize people, and a lot of time these less sophisticated burglars will be deterred by the knowledge that you have maybe home security systems or visible surveillance cameras, or your properties are well lit, which allows you to see more and your neighbors to see more when people are lurking around your properties. So the best security means are the means that you use. A lot of times what we're seeing on these burglaries that's making it more challenging for us is that people have these very advanced home security systems that they paid a lot of money for and work very well, and they feel that they're inconvenient, so they don't turn them on, and then they never work, right? Or you'll receive that phone call in the middle of the night while you're on vacation that your system's been activated, and people assume that it was the cat or the air conditioner blew something over that triggered that motion detector, and they will tell the security company not to send us out. And then we don't find out about the burglary until 8 hours later when that person returns home. So a lot of times we're behind the ball because of these call transition delays, or because people don't take the steps to protect themselves. So definitely do all that you can. Having that system is great. Monitor that system. If you're using home cameras like Ring cameras or things like that, take the time in your applications to set up the alerts, and then pay attention to them. Even so much to say as like Sergeant Byers was talking about, they're using these Wi-Fi jammers to defeat your systems. That's an indicator in of itself. If your system goes down, consider asking somebody like a neighbor to take a look, or like out the window, not to go over to the house, or call us and tell us that your security system just went down and you're concerned that your property might be getting victimized. Because that's what happened at one of our recent cases is rather than an alert that somebody was on scene or that glass had been broken, the only alert the victim received was that everything in the house was offline. The cameras were offline, the temperature control was offline, and all of the systems were just not working, rather than that burglary alarm alert. So minutes count for us, because the faster we can get out to respond to these, the greater chance that we can lock that area down and catch that person in the moment. And we love that. So.
All right, moving on to check fraud and bank fraud. This can come in a couple different forms. So we'll start out with check fraud. So these people, they have a few methods that they can use to get your checking information. So if they can get an image of your check, this can come in a couple different ways. Maybe, you write a check, you realize like, I wrote the wrong amount, the wrong name on it or whatever. Again, going back to what we were talking about before, shred your documents. If you don't, if you're getting rid of old documents, don't just throw stuff away in the trash can. People will dumpster dive and get this stuff. So if you have some old check that you void out or something like that, make sure you shred it. So another thing that we'll see sometimes too is be very aware of who you're writing checks to. We see a lot of the older generation still likes checks. They like using those as opposed to cards, things like that. A lot of the younger generation isn't using them as much, but there's a pretty big drawback to writing checks, and that's that your account number is printed on them. So for instance, I'm working a case right now where a victim wrote a check to somebody for some services they performed around their house, and a relative of the worker got a hold of the check and said, "Hey, I got this lady's account information now." Well, then he started buying stuff online with her account information that he got off the check that she wrote to a landscaper at her house for legitimate business purposes. So be aware of who you are writing checks to, and that every time you do, your account number is getting out there. So when this does happen, sometimes we'll see people will write themselves a check or, transfer money directly into their bank account. When they do this, this ends up being some nice leads for us. We can follow up on this pretty well. We can get the possible suspects information, their bank account information. Common tool that we use here is you'll see a 7480B request. What that is that's California Government Code Section 7480B. Long story short, what this says is that any banking or financial institution that does business in the state of California, if there is a reported incident of fraud related to the specific bank account, we as law enforcement can access all sorts of information related to that. So hypothetically, somebody gets a hold of your checking account, they fraudulently write themselves a check, maybe you wrote it to somebody else, they white out the name, they write their own name in there, do a mobile deposit, never even have to take it into the bank. Once that's deposited into their account, we can use the 7480 form to look up all basically your information for who your checks went to for that time period. We can look up the suspect's bank account information and see, yes, your check, John Smith, whatever your name is, wrote a check to this suspect and was deposited at that time. And we can document that in the report and follow up. So this is kind of an example of what one of these 7480 forms look like. It works with all these major national banks. They all do business in California, as well as if you have a local bank here that just serves maybe the Greater Placer County information, Greater Placer County area, I mean. So these are some examples of some of the things that we can get off this 7480B request. So it's not just account information. We can get surveillance images from ATMs. So we have some good examples here. These are people who got either fraudulent checks, or maybe they stole a victim's credit card, debit card, anything like that. And they're going to an ATM and they're making a withdrawal. Well, with this form, we can look this stuff up. We can say, hey, these people made a fraudulent withdrawal at this date, at this time, this location. I want surveillance footage. The banks are pretty happy to provide that with us. Your banks, they want to protect you. They see like, hey, you're their customer. You've suffered this loss. They have a reputation they want to maintain. They want to work well with us most of the time. So they want to help us help you and kind of get this money back and put these people away. And something that you might be wondering is, why is this 7480B important? Why does this matter? Well, there are sometimes where we have to write a search warrant to find where somebody's money left, where it went to. So if somebody, pays a utility bill or something like that, maybe this doesn't apply. It can take us a couple hours to write a search warrant sometimes. I can knock out one of these 7480B forms in about 10 minutes. I probably send out a half a dozen of these a week. We can just bang them out super fast, and it is a huge time saver for us. And luckily, the banks get these often enough where they know what it is. They get the information back to us fairly quickly, and it saves us a lot of time, and we can get to hopefully recovering your money that much faster. We don't always recover the money. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but it'll definitely help our odds. So going back to what to do if you feel like you have been a victim of some sort of bank fraud, check fraud, anything like that. Call your bank immediately. If you see something on your account statement, if you get an alert, something like that, that just doesn't look right, call your bank, ask them to reverse it or stop it. A lot of times, if you log into your account online, you might see some pending transactions, especially the earlier you catch it, the better. Call them up and say like, hey, this wasn't me. That's fraud. Can you stop it? Can you reverse it? Most of the time they will. So another thing to do, change your passwords. So if you do feel like your account's been compromised, like I said, there's a lot of different ways that can get access to your account. So especially if you don't know how they were able to access it, a good move to go from there is to change your passwords, especially for that specific bank. And then going back to what we were talking about earlier with using different passwords, this is the kind of thing where this really comes in key. If you use the same password for multiple things, especially multiple financial institutions, if they're able to get your password and they get into your Bank of America account, they say, oh, score, I lucked out. And then they find out, oh, you've also got a Fidelity account or a Lincoln Financial account, whatever. They'll start trying your passwords in those too. And if you're using the same account, if you're using the same password for every one of these accounts, sometimes they start compromising multiple accounts, and then you're even worse off. So again, like Sergeant Byers was saying, file a report with your local police department. If you live in our jurisdiction in unincorporated Placer County, file a report with us. We will go out, we will come out, we will see what we can do. We'll try to track down these people if we can. We'll try to recover your money if we can. Like I said, sometimes depending on the methods these people use, we are able to get it back. Sometimes we can't. What's kind of nice is that, again, going back to reporting this as early as possible, something that we see sometimes is the suspects will transfer the money, your money, into maybe one account and then transfer it to another account and another account. And they'll create all these layers of separation to make it harder to track down. Well, if you see this fraudulent transaction pop up immediately, if you call and report it to your bank, the bank will put a freeze on it. And maybe before they get the chance to transfer it to the next banking institution, the money's already frozen. Maybe it won't get back into your account immediately, but the odds of getting it back are significantly greater the faster you can catch it and report it. And then one other method you can do is report it to the Federal Trade Commission. So we've got a website and a phone number for them there. And then going back to calling your bank immediately to reporting this stuff. That's one other thing I want to touch on is, if you get banking alerts via text message, like I do, a lot of people do. This is another method that some of these scammers will try. They'll send you a text message from what looks like U.S. Bank, Chase Bank, or whatever, and says, "Hey, there is fraud on your account. Click this link and resolve it, or call this number." Going back to what we were talking about before, don't just click a link that you get in a text message or on an email or something like that. Go on to whatever banking app you normally use, or if you just call or go into a branch, anything like that, do that on your own. Do not click the link that they send to you, because maybe it's legitimate, maybe it's not, but the best way to verify it is to check on whatever your normal app is or whatever your normal way of communicating with your bank is to verify that.
All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is, phishing emails, scam emails. I'm sure you get those all the time. I get them all the time. And then the next thing leading into that is business email compromise. So what business email compromise is, if you guys don't know, but basically any business in Placer County, this crime is on the rise. They're getting into the business emails of that business, right? It's kind of confusing, but like we have a placer.ca government account. It's just like our stuff being compromised. So if I send you an email from my official email address it looks like that I sent you an email, which I really didn't, right? So this type of crime is on the rise in Placer County, targeting all businesses, right? Because businesses have money, and they like to send out payments to people, right? So it's hitting the real estate industry, cybersecurity industry, construction industry, anybody. I mean, we have a landscaping business that got hit. So we talked about all the data breaches, your passwords and things like that have been compromised. Well, now they're going to these businesses, right? So Joe at landscaper.com, right? He does goes around Placer County, cuts down all the trees. He makes a lot of good money. And then they will break into his account by his, compromised passwords or whatever. They'll just pull the data. Somehow they get into his email accounts. And then from there, they'll read all of his emails. Oh, who does this guy email? Where does he send money to? Where does he receive money? Right? So that's what they're looking for. And then they'll hijack that email address, right? So Joe is now talking to Jane at, Concrete Builders, right? And what they'll do is now they'll get in the middle of that conversation by making similar email addresses that sound, it won't. So it would be like Joe at landscaper.com. Now it's joeslandscaper.com. And they're messing around with the email. It's called man in the middle attack. So Jane thinks she's emailing Joe. Joe thinks he's emailing Jane. And they're having this conversation. And then eventually there's going to be like, Joe's going to be like, oh, hey, you owe me some money. Send it over here. So that's what the business email compromise does. Is that kind of confusing or no? Everybody get it? No? Yeah. So anytime there's instructions, who just got one? Yeah. There you go. Thank goodness he's in the class. But anytime there is a request for payment on an email, I would not trust it. Zero trust, right? I'm sending money. I mean, I did this with my real estate agent and escrow company. They said, here's the wiring instructions. I said, cool, I'll send you $500. And they said, why? Just send us all the money. I said, I want to make sure you get it first. I don't know. I can't trust this thing, right? I don't want to lose thousands of dollars. I want to lose 500. So anytime, and tell your friends that own businesses and anything like that, anytime there's a request for payment or a change of payment or anything online, do not trust it, right? Because you don't know if people have gotten into your email. They will wait months, days, years to wait for you to move money around. So that's business email compromise in a very, short example. So, so they can change the emails very easily. So you might think you're talking to John Doe, and then they just change it to Jane Doe. And you think you're clicking around so fast, or you're not paying attention. You think you're talking to that person. So just be careful. Like the phishing emails, it might look like it's coming from your bank, but if you read it carefully, it has a logo, has this very similar email, but when you actually stop and read it, you go, oh, something's weird about it. So just anytime you deal with money, just take it very slowly, and then verify and make sure that you're moving your money around appropriately. Right. So if you didn't hear in the back, she's receiving, emails from Amazon telling her to renew her subscription. So she did the smart thing and read the email where it's coming from, and it didn't look like an official Amazon email address. So they can mimic what looks like an official address. So just be wary of anything, right, that you click on. Yeah, so these are some tricks, like you can hover over it and then it might, it might say Amazon on it, but then when you hover over it, it might give you the actual address. There's different ways that these guys can manipulate what you're seeing. So just be wary, right? Just because it might look legitimate, just verify that it actually is, right? And then if you really have a question about it, ask somebody, a friend, family member. You can ask us, you can call us, and we can check it for you, right? So, and then obviously, like we're talking about earlier, the tech support scams, and then, going back to emails. I don't trust emails, right? I trust them a little bit. They're just a form of communication back and forth. But, when I get stuff like this, update your stuff. I mean, I try to keep my stuff updated as much as possible, but I'm sure everybody doesn't. So just make sure that you try to keep your technology up to date so it's less susceptible to, compromise. But if you see stuff like this, just don't click on it, because then your computer and stuff will get compromised, right? So a lot of these tech scams, what they'll do is they will ask you to give them permission to remote into your computer. So when they start giving you directions and telling you click on this, log into this, real easy is just disconnect from the internet, turn off your computer. Like, that's the fastest way to deal with this problem, is just cut them off from the internet. Once they're off, your device is off the internet, then they don't have access to your device. So, and like she said, just make sure what you're looking at is real, because a lot of it isn't real. I get 5 million emails a day of spam telling me to buy this or do this or sign up for this. So.
One of the tools we can use to help protect your personal property from getting stolen, things like break-ins or thefts or anything like that, is the owner applied number system. So you can see this is a piece of farm equipment that somebody's etching a number onto. So the owner applied number system is a way that you can apply a number to personal property, and it identifies a connection between lost property and stolen property back to the rightful owner and anybody who's in possession of that property. And that can be searched in our CLETS automated property system. And what the owner applied number system is something like if you have like a tool or a piece of personal property, you can engrave it with a distinct number on there. Some people have used their social security numbers. I don't recommend that. You can use your driver's license number. I don't recommend that. But what you should do is just write down, I think you can do between 2 and 20 digits, just write down a hexadecimal number, which is to say something with letters and numbers in it. It can be any combination of things you want. The only things we would not put into the system are anything that's either obscene or profane, or a string of zeros. A string of zeros would not work in the system. But anything else you can put in there. You can put a short phrase in there. You can put a 20-digit number in there if you can write it down and remember it. But it works like if Danny's got a lawnmower and Danny leaves the lawnmower out front and forgets to put it away, somebody drives by, grabs Danny's lawnmower, and then maybe tries to sell it on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp or Craigslist or something. Well, Danny has thought ahead, and Danny has inscribed some 15 or 16-digit number on the bottom of it. He's got that number saved in his desk on a piece of paper, and it says Danny's Lawnmower OAN. And so when the deputy comes to take Danny's report for a stolen lawnmower, Danny can say, hey, it was a red Sears lawnmower. I've had it for a couple years, and inscribed on the bottom of it is this 15-digit number. When the deputy then writes the report, they'll put that 15-digit number in there. And then maybe like a week or two later, another deputy is driving around out here in the middle of the night and stops a car that's got a red Sears lawnmower in the back of it. He flips that lawnmower over and looks under the bottom of it, and there's Danny's number on there. They can connect Just a record, it's basically just a records keeping system that can connect people's evidence and people's property back to them. So I said it's unique identification numbers, permanently stamped, etched, engraved, or welded on an item of property, farm equipment, basically anything you want. It's alphanumeric, not a string of zeros, and it's for things that are not serialized. Things like cell phones and firearms and things like that, those already have serial numbers, but this is basically for non-serialized property. This is our report writing system, and half of this was instruction given to deputies on how to put those numbers into the system. This is CLETS. This is our California Law Enforcement Telecommunications System. This is where we'd go put it in there. Put the farm gate up because there was a guy out in Lincoln who was losing a bunch of these farm gates, and something that would be useful for him would be that owner applied number system. Put that number on there, and then we could track those farm gates down. And later when we put it into evidence, we can look it up and see where that owner applied number system goes. All right. So we've talked a lot about scams and frauds and things like that, and a lot of scary trends and things like that. I want to talk about some of our successes that we've had, and these successes are due in large part, actually completely to a good partnership between our citizens in our community, our hardworking law enforcement professionals, 4 of whom you see here, and many of whom are not here because they're out working right now. But successes that we've seen is due to those community partnerships between us and the community. The oil in the engine scam. We talked about that. What happened was this: these two guys on either side, or got arrested for this. They showed up in this black 4Runner. They were intending to buy a gold Toyota Tacoma up in Newcastle last year. After getting spooked, the lady whose truck this was called us and said, hey, these guys showed up. They poured oil into the engine and got it to smoke, and they tried to trick my son into selling it to them. Thankfully, the son saw that something was amiss and he didn't go for it. So what we did was we continued to talk with the victim, and she continued to talk with the suspects under our supervision, and we convinced the suspects to show back up. These two showed up in this black 4Runner. You can see they have their hands behind their backs. It's not because they're stretching, it's because they're detained. But what they did is they showed up in this 4Runner and tried to buy this Tacoma. We were convinced that this was them. We called one of the phone numbers. It rang in their pocket. We pulled them out of the car. One of them had a couple $1,000s of cash in their pocket because they were hoping that they were going to score a $12,000 Tacoma for $2,000. And fortunately, all they got was a free ride to the Placer County Jail, and everything got towed, including their cell phones and their money. But what was significant about this 4Runner is that a few weeks prior, this 4Runner had been stolen from a girl in Redwood City. And so Detective Kim called that girl and said, hey, we have your 4Runner up here. It's already been registered in Washington with your name on it. Where did this come from? She said, hey, I go to college down here, and these guys hit me up, and they said they wanted to buy my 4Runner, and I was trying to sell it for $5,000, and these guys drove it around, and all of a sudden the engine blew up, and I didn't know what was going on, and they gave me $1,200, and I said that was probably a good deal for a broken car, and I left. We said, well, unfortunately, these guys ripped you off as well. And so this is a car that was considered a stolen vehicle because they'd taken it via false pretenses from this girl in Redwood City. And so we were able to tow the car, get it on its way back to her, and these two guys ended up going to jail. You'll notice a familiar face there, Detective Kim. This was an instance from Granite Bay, the lady who preferred that we not show her true identity for obvious reasons. So that's, pretty clear likeness of who she is. She had fallen victim to an online scam where she had given away $122,000 to these scammers. They had convinced her to send money via wire transfer, and Detective Kim, being experienced in this sort of thing, got the banks to put a freeze on that, much like Detective Cunningham had kind of described earlier. Based on that freeze, there was some suspect info, but after the DA concluded the case, Detective Kim was able to write a search warrant into the bank account and get $97,000 back. This is not usually what happens, but we are able to sometimes do this. And for this lady, we were able to give that back. On the left side, that's Trevor from our evidence unit. And this is a very happy victim getting almost $100,000 of her money back in one of our success stories. We talked about the South American theft group. We talked about how difficult it is to find them and catch them. Sometimes it's difficult to catch them. Sometimes we've had some good successes. This car had been seen up and down the West Coast. These folks had been in and out of grocery stores, victimizing elderly folks at the grocery stores. The way it would work is that a lady would be pushing her cart down the aisle. She'd have her purse in the cart as she's reaching to go get something off one of the racks. One of the suspects would then either lift her wallet or lift a couple cards out of her wallet and then leave the store. They would then immediately go to a big box store, a place like a Target or a Costco, and just buy something really expensive with her funds. We found this car as connected to that. This is a Flock license plate reader camera photo that was used in the case. And we found this guy. This is an American Canyon down past Vallejo. This guy is sitting there on the front bumper of the patrol car from our partners down there after having been arrested. He was detained for being part of this fraud scam. This is another car that's connected to the same scam. This car was traveling through, this is in Auburn, I believe. We found this car is connected to the credit card fraud scam and found this car going down Bell Road. Put it out to patrol units, and a couple of Eagle Eye deputies from our Colfax area stopped and detained this car. Inside are these two. You can see that they're sitting there in the back of our patrol car, which is probably much more comfortable than an old beat up Mazda they were driving. We went inside it, and it was pretty beat up inside. These two, we found that one of them had their Maps app open, and we're like, oh, where are y'all heading to? And it was heading up to Tahoe City, up in the south part of Lake Tahoe. Later that day, we saw the address on their phone. We said, you know what? We should probably go up there and see, what they were going home to. It was an Airbnb. It wasn't their home. These two are nationals from, I believe they're from Colombia. These two are from Colombia, and they gave fake names. We figured out what their real names were. They're actually both still in custody. And so we drove up to Tahoe City to go see what was going on at the house. We just hit a search warrant on it, made entry onto the house, and found that these two were actually not just credit card thieves and fraudsters, but they're actually part of the South American theft group. They were actively surveilling houses in the county, down in the Roseville, Granite Bay area. They're actively surveilling houses to do later break-ins. So they were actually doing a couple different things that we've talked about earlier today. But because of the education we've gotten from trainings we've been to, talking with other law enforcement partners across California and across the nation, we're able to connect these folks to much more serious activities than just stealing a credit card. When we spoke about that surveillance video of the guy walking around in the neighborhood, I'm not sure which of the four this is. That one was, but he's one of these four people here. He was walking through that neighborhood, peeking over people's fences. That video you saw was part of a 3-day surveillance operation. So what happened was a detective down in Los Angeles called us and said, hey, I have some information about some potential burglars in your area. Based on information we know down here, we think they may be up there. Here's a description of what their car likely looks like. We drove around, we looked around, we found their car. We spent the next 3 days surveilling these folks, watching to see where they went. Same kind of idea. They went back to an Airbnb down in Sacramento, spent the night there, and the next day they drove up to locations in Placer County, some in Lincoln, some in Roseville, and they're doing surveillance on your communities. That video we showed from the drone of the guy walking around the neighborhood looks like he's just getting his steps and enjoying the sunshine. It was one of these 4 folks walking around in your neighborhoods, seeing what they can see. By the 3rd day, we had seen enough. We developed probable cause to determine that they were conspiring together to do a residential break-in. We then arrested the top 3 there down in Sacramento. We then went and did a search warrant on the Airbnb that they had been staying at, and that's where we found the identity of the 4th guy as well as that car there. So they are being held responsible for the things that they've done. Resources, who to call. We've given you guys all some how this happens and what happens and why the scammers and fraudsters are doing this. But I think it's that information is only so good if you only retain that information but don't know what to do next. Resources that y'all can call. The Federal Trade Commission. They talk about things like online commerce and things like that. You can report scams and get recovery guidance, how you can rebuild if you've been scammed. The National Elder Fraud Hotline is put on by the United States Department of Justice. That's the same overarching law enforcement agency that is the FBI, but they have confidential support if you've been a victim of elder fraud. Definitely call us too, because these are more like resources rather than investigative bodies, but they may be able to work in conjunction with kind of like parallel tracks. We would do the criminal investigation, and these folks would be able to give you resources and help. AARP Fraud Watch Network. This has scam alerts, so maybe we can give you guys information here. But as far tomorrow there's going to be another fraud scam that's going to happen. There's going to be another idea that pops into some criminal's mind of like, I know how to rip off some nice folks. And this Fraud Watch should be able to give you not just support for if it does happen, but also what to watch for ahead of time. And then the do not call registry. You can register your number to reduce unwanted calls. I notice it does not say eliminate or completely take away unwanted calls, because that basically relies upon people to, if they're not going to listen to the government as far as don't rip people off, they may not listen to the government as far as, don't call Ken and Kyle. But it is a way you can reduce your unwanted calls. I have also used like some privacy software for my own calls, because I was getting many fraud calls on my own phone, and I use some privacy software in order to eliminate many of those. And as always, if you live in the unincorporated county, you definitely feel free to call Pulaski County Dispatch if you feel like you may be getting defrauded. If you have been defrauded, let us know what's going on. And like Ken said multiple times, we'd love to help. We want to help ahead of time. We'd much rather prevent one of these things from occurring than have you go through the pain and the just the wasted time of having to rebuild finances that depending on the circumstances. We do have some successes of getting money back, and banks do generally give your money back if it was merely just a something where it was just taken from your account or your credit card was skimmed or something like that. But the difficult part about some of these things is that in frauds and scams, if you are tricked into doing something willingly, then oftentimes the bank is under no obligation to give you your money back. If somebody just came and just, hacked into your account and took your money, the bank will usually give that money back because it's in their contract, it's in their practice, because it's their responsibility to protect your money from scammers. But if you get tricked into, or you get talked into doing something against your best interest and against your common sense, most likely the bank will not do that, will not give you your money back, because they'll say, well, you did this willingly. You gave your money away. It sounds heartless. It does sound like, not very sensitive to somebody that's been, defrauded. But that's why I wanted to give you all this information now, so that when inevitably you come across some sort of a scam or a fraud that hits you in the face, you'll go, you know what? Those 5 guys are up here. Now I know what to do. Now I know how to handle this. And you're more prepared than you think you are. Even after having gone through this probably maybe takes what was in black and white and maybe puts it in color in your mind, as far as like, I have been getting some of those emails. They seem legitimate, but they also seemed a little weird. You know what? Take the information that you already possess just based on life experience, and add some of the specifics which we've given you today, and just understand that you are more prepared to handle one of these things than you think. Stay calm. Pressure is a trick. You always have the time to pause what you're doing and verify. You know what? My bank usually sends me letters, but all of a sudden they're calling me and they sound really urgent. That sounds like different from what they usually do. I need to hang up. I need to call them back from a verified number. I really need to slow this down so I don't end up getting talked into something that's against my best interest. Ask for help. Talking to a trusted person is always the right thing to do. Get a family member, a trusted neighbor, a friend, something like that, to talk to a trusted person. Like, hey, I got this really urgent message from Bank of America that says my account's been hacked and the IRS is coming after me, and I really need to get them the money today or else I'm going to jail. again, none of that is real. None of that's going to happen. That's not the way that things occur. So get another trusted person. And if you call the sheriff's office, we can be a trusted person. But if you want to work with like a family member or friend or something like that, ask for that help to try to get, you know what, help me talk through this. Help me think through this. Is this what we should be doing? And then if something happens, report it. You may be helping yourself. You may be helping the next person along the line. I always tell people that are victims of crimes to, you know what, you may be helping the next person along the line. You may have already been victimized or scammed out of something, but if we can take your information and move it down the line, we may be able to. You may be able to be an instrument in helping somebody else be prevented from getting scammed. So that is all the presentation we had. I'm certain that there would be a couple questions, so I wanted to open it up for anybody that had questions. Yes, ma'am. Right. I was about to say it's usually Zelle and Venmo and PayPal. So some of those things have protection. Some of them don't. Sometimes they'll send you money and then say, oh, I sent you too much money. Send me this money back. That's just doing money laundering. They've gotten some sort of funds somewhere, probably from the previous victim. And they're just bouncing the money back and forth, hoping that these guys over here don't have the time to drill down through multiple search warrants into whose money came from where and where this money actually came from. So as far as that goes, I think cash is probably always the best way. Yep, cash only. And if it's something portable that you don't have to do at your house, even better. You're definitely free to meet up in any sheriff's office parking lot you want. In the front, nobody legitimate should be turned off by, hey, I've got this cool rocking chair, hey, I want to buy your rocking chair. It's $80. Meet me in front of the sheriff's office at, 10 a.m. We'll sell it to you. Nobody legitimate should be turned off by that. If they're like, oh, hey, Venmo only, and my cousin's going to pick it up and it's going to be at 3:00 in the morning. Those are all red flags. Those are all off the wall red flags, but those are all the things to watch for. If it's a good deal, it may be a good deal. If it's too good to be true, it most always is.
Funny you should ask about that. I'm working on a case right now where that happened. Long story short, somebody was able to earn the trust of a elderly gentleman who maybe did not have all of his cognitive capabilities. And sure enough, she got him to sign over her house and recorded the deed with the Placer County Recorder's Office. So I'm working on untangling that at the moment, but absolutely, that is something that happens. That is something to be aware of. Again, it comes back to people targeting the elderly generation, and especially those people that they see that maybe have dementia, Alzheimer's, diminished cognitive capabilities, things like that. So if you do have a loved one that maybe needs some in-home care, make sure you are hiring them through a legitimate source, IHSS, someone that does background checks. Whatever you do, do not just put an ad out saying, I need a caretaker, whatever else. Make sure you are background checking anybody who you're entrusting the care of your loved one to, because that stuff does happen, unfortunately. Yeah, that's a good question. These people, they will fraudulently write up certain documents. Usually we can track that stuff down, especially like you said, like if you're legitimately transferring the title to your house over to somebody else, like it needs to be notarized, things like that. Something else that we see, people might put like a lien on your house. You don't necessarily need, to get your signature to put a lien on your house, things like that. But yeah, a lot of times they'll forge this. We can eventually turn it around, but it's a mess. It's a lot of paperwork. It takes time. It takes a lot of headache. But usually we can sort that out. Well, luckily these days, because that was kind of an issue for a while. Now, if like your property is recorded in your name with your address, things like that. Now, because of these scams, the recorder's office is sending out notices. If there's a change in title to your house, things like that, they will typically send you a notice. And I'm not totally sure if they do that for all liens, though. Do they do that for liens as well? Okay, so not necessarily for liens, but for title transfers, they will. So you can always call into the recorder's office and ask if there's anything against your property like that, and they will be able to tell you. Do you have a question? No. Yes.
You don't have to do all of them.
Okay.
If they get hacked, sometimes these guys hack the Pentagon. How safe is my information? Read about that. Some companies are. That thing.
So I think that there's never going to be anything that we're going to be able to tell you for like 100% certainty that this is 100% safe or 100% risky. Well, I'm sure there's certain things that are definitely 100% risky, but there's nothing that we're going to ever say is like, well, there's 0% risk in doing this. Anything, anything is possible. As far as credit monitoring bureaus go, the three credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, those are the credit bureaus that allow you to check your credit. When you're trying to get a loan or a car or a house or a boat or a credit card or something like that. The other ones that are there, which then monitor your credit to see if you have any sort of loans or credit cards or anything that you weren't aware of. Those are LifeLock and the sort of that sort of business. True, like some of them have been hacked. So there have been data breaches. Certainly everybody who's a hacker or a identity thief would love to get into those because then they would have a treasure trove of people's personally identifying information. So a lot of the things that we're telling you today are more like risk mitigation, of like lowering your risks to certain things. There's never going to be any 100% certainty that something's not going to happen. My own county credit card that you would imagine be like the highest level of security. Nobody can hack this thing. Like I had it hacked twice. I went and bought something in Roseville legitimately, and then within a day somebody was using that card at a Walmart in North Carolina. Well, I've never even been to North Carolina, and I'm never used my county card at any Walmarts, but somehow that information got transferred to a scammer out there in North Carolina, and they were buying a bunch of junk at Walmart. So all that, I'll get to you in a second. All that information, if it can flow through a wire, if it can flow through the air, then there's a possibility that somebody could do it. Just as much as scammers are out there plotting and planning every day to try to take your stuff, there's also cybersecurity professionals that are out there working every day to secure it. So it's like anything else. It's just a kind of an ongoing battle back and forth between those. And there's nothing that's 100% risk averse, but it's just one of those things of just making sure that you're doing the best you can to kind of lower your risks of falling victim to one of those things. Sir in the red shirt. Right. We are still getting those calls, and your example shows that we're still getting those calls. Yeah, exactly. You need to do some sort of verification thing where you like, hey, what's some information that only your son would know? Exactly. Yeah, it's those steps we talked about. We talked about that stay calm, that pressure is a trick, and ask for help. Like in your example, you stayed calm. You're like, well, my son's probably not in jail. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure it was. It was AI being used for that purpose. But you did the right thing. You asked for help. You were like, well, you know what? My son's got a middle initial, and this person would have to know it. And if they didn't know it, then it's not them. Also, the other thing to do is you go, you know what? You're right. I'll call you right back. And then you call your son back at his phone number, not at the number they give you. You call him back at his phone number. Sorry. I don't know. I don't know if he's lucky or if you're lucky. So that's right. Yes, ma'am. Yep. That's an excellent security tip. Yes, ma'am. Hmm.
Because the light, that Jack said, move it over.
That's a good alarm system. Yeah. Anyone else? All right. Well, we appreciate your folks' time. We hope this was helpful, and please reach out if y'all should need anything in the future. Okay. All right. Take care.